In the software world, it feels like there's this constant tug of war, right? On one side, you've got this relentless pressure to ship new features, like yesterday. But on the other, you've got the need to build something solid, something that's actually going to last. It's a tension every single dev team feels. So today, we're going to dig into how you can actually win that battle. And it starts by looking at the hidden cost of all that speed. And this analogy, it just nails the problem. Picture it. You're in that race to deliver, and you start hearing those weird engine noises. You know what I'm talking about. The little glitches, the shortcuts you took, that messy bit of code. But instead of pulling over to check it out, what do? We crank up the music and just hope for the best. The thing is, that noise, it doesn't just magically disappear. So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we keep our foot on the gas and ship fast without setting ourselves up for a huge, expensive breakdown on the side of the road? Well, the answer starts with figuring out what that engine noise actually is. Right. So that engine noise, that choice to just ignore the problem and turn up the volume, it actually has a name in the world of software development. It's a kind of debt, and it's sneaky. It just builds up quietly in the background until one day, bam, it brings everything to a grinding halt. And that's what we call technical debt. It's basically what happens anytime you take a shortcut just to hit a deadline. I mean, you get that short-term win, right? You ship the feature, everyone's happy, but what you're really doing is borrowing from your future self. And like any debt, this one comes with interest. And that interest makes your code way harder to maintain, way more buggy, and a real pain to adapt down the road. And look, this isn't just one simple thing. Technical debt actually comes in a whole bunch of different flavors, and it can creep into every single part of the development process. So let's break down a few of the big ones. First up, you've got code debt. This is the classic one. It's when the code, well, it works, but it's a tangled mess of spaghetti. Duplicated functions all over the place, zero comments to explain what's going on. It makes the whole system super fragile, and honestly, it's a nightmare for any new developer trying to get up to speed. It just slows everything down. Then there's design debt. Oof, this one can be brutal. This is when those early architectural choices you made for speed come back to haunt you. Maybe you went with a simple monolithic design because it was fast to get started, but now it's practically impossible to scale or add a big new feature without a complete, and I mean costly, rewrite. And finally, let's talk about testing debt. This is a big one. It's what happens when teams decide to skip writing automated tests because, hey, we got to get this feature out the door. But the result is pretty predictable, right? You've got a much higher chance of bugs escaping into the wild, and it makes every future change a long, painful, manual process to check. Okay, so we've named the culprits: code, design, and testing debt. But so what? What happens if we just let it pile up? What's the real price of kicking this can down the road? Well, this is where things get pretty serious. It's a really simple truth, but it's a powerful one. The later you find a bug, the more it's going to cost you to fix it. I mean, something that would have been a super quick fix back in the planning stage, well, once it's out there in the hands of your users, it becomes a massive headache. Okay, we get it, it's more expensive, but the sheer scale of that cost is what's truly mind-blowing. So let's actually put a number on it. How much more are we really talking about to fix a bug after release versus catching it early? 100 times. Yeah, you heard that right. A bug that makes it all the way to deployment can cost you up to 100 times more to fix than if you just caught it back in the design phase. That is a kind of multiplier that absolutely drains budgets and can literally sink entire projects. It just proves that testing early isn't some nice-to-have luxury, it's an absolute economic necessity. But here's the good news. We don't actually have to choose between going fast and building quality stuff. If we just rethink our approach of it, we can catch those super expensive bugs early without hitting the brakes. It's all about testing smarter, not just harder. See, the old way of doing things is what we'd call static testing. You figure out your risks once at the very beginning, and you just stick to that plan no matter what. But software is not static, is it? It's alive. It's constantly changing. So the smarter way to go is dynamic. That's where you're constantly reevaluating the risk based on what's actually happening, on real-time results, so you can adapt and focus on where the real problems are hiding. And this whole dynamic approach really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, assess the business impact. Just ask, how critical is this feature to our users? Second, figure out the failure probability. Look back and see how often this part of the code has caused trouble before. And third, you just combine those two things to create a super clear risk profile. And what you get is basically a map, a clear path right through what can feel like a really complex maze. So instead of trying to test every single thing with the same level of urgency, you can now focus your precious time and energy on the parts of the app that actually carry the most risk. It's all about getting the biggest bang for your buck, the maximum impact with the least amount of wasted effort. And this is the secret sauce that makes it all click. It's a simple 9-box grid. By plotting every test case on here, based on its business impact on one axis and its probability of failure on the other, you can see in an instant where you need to focus. I mean, something with high business impact that also has a high chance of failing, that jumps to the top of your list. Meanwhile, something with low impact and low probability, well, that can probably wait. So what's the actual payoff here? What happens when you adopt this smarter, dynamic way of testing? Well, the good news is the benefits aren't just theoretical. They are real, measurable, and pretty darn significant. Let's start with this number, 30%. At a bare minimum, teams can expect to optimize their entire test suite by 30%. Think about that. That means you're running fewer, smarter, more targeted tests. You're saving a huge amount of time and resources. And here's the kicker, you're actually improving the overall quality at the same time. And this is exactly how you start to pay down all that debt we were talking about earlier. Those leaner, smarter test suites, they directly attack your testing debt. And by pinpointing those high-risk areas, you suddenly have a data-driven roadmap to go back and fix that tangled code debt and those shaky architectural choices that created your design debt. So at the end of the day, you stop just testing features and you start ensuring real business value. And that has a direct impact on your brand, your market share, and your bottom line. So here's the question I want to leave you with. As we're all out there racing to build the next big thing, what are we really building on? Is it a solid foundation, or is it a really shaky one, built on a mountain of debt? The cool thing is, by testing smarter, we can finally have it all. We can build faster and build better, making sure that high-performance car of ours is actually ready for the long haul.